Breaking news. Mirko is thicker than a bowl of grits. Alright, I just wanted to go ahead and get that out the way because I felt that everybody was thinking it, but I had to be the one to say it, and it's just something that needs to be said. I mean, Hirokoshi knows what he's doing, alright? This isn't the first time we've been introduced to Mirko, but at the same time, she got an entire chapter dedicated to her, with her doing her shit. But I want to jump into this review, and without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I also want to preference all of this by saying, I called this back in, I think, my chapter 259 review, where I talked about how the Doctor would inevitably have a code word to activate the Nomu if the hospital was ground zero for the Nomu operation, which it was, which led me talking about in that chapter review how I believe they should have utilized Midnight a little bit more to make this like a clean capture and retrieval mission. Of course, I talked about Midnight pumping her like, you know, mist that she could produce through the ventilation in order to put everybody to sleep within the hospital, as long as there's ventilation, because even in the basement there has to be ventilation. Otherwise, he won't be able to breathe down there. It would have got to him, it would have been a cut and dry case, but if it was a cut and dry case, we would not have what we have here now. But at the end of the day, we're going to start off with this chapter review. Now, what I was talking about and what was going on within this chapter is Mirko busting through all of the Doctor's wall. And the crazy part about it was he was talking about, oh man, it took so many years, and do you know how long it takes in order to extract and preserve a quirk outside of a body? And then you just see Mirko bust through the entire wall, kills our boy Johnny dead in his tracks, and the Doctor is just grieving over this man, alright, over our boy Johnny. R.I.P. Johnny. Mirko radios in and she talks about how she found the old fart on page 4, and Endeavor radios back and he was like, I wish I could say we would be on our way, but there's no way that we can just come to you. You have to give us time. If you remember from the previous chapter, up above, they're fighting all the lower end Nomu, while Mirko was down below in the basement fighting the high end Nomu. So all of this is happening. We fast forward to chapter 5. We see our boy Crust. He's in like a maze like area of the hospital, I guess. Maybe if you really had to argue it, a place in between the hospital and the basement that's a maze-like area, and he's facing off Nomu of himself. If we had to speculate on Crust's quirk based off of his name Crust, I would argue it has something to do with the earth itself or a hardening ability. If I had to look at the panel, I'm picturing diamonds. Honestly, you know what I mean? Like, it could be something, a matter of gems or the earth itself. I'm not going to spend too much time speculating on that because the bulk of this chapter is Miss Thickums herself, Mirko. Page 8, you have Mirko trying to determine if this current Doctor is the real Doctor, because you know that there are duplicates of him that were above at the main level of the hospital. So she was like, are you the real one? And he was like, I'm the real one. I'm the real one. And she was like, you know what, you could be lying to me, so we're going to have to figure this out for ourselves. And she goes in to give him a kick. And just as she goes to kick him, he pulls out of his coat jacket a remote control that is believed to have been used to activate the Nomu. And as she kicks his arm to try to stop him from activating it, it doesn't work. Mocha jumps in the way of the kick, stopping her kick and allowing the Doctor to activate the high-end Nomu that were in the big-ass incubators. Alright? And you can tell from this chapter that the Doctor really does love his Nomu in some weird creator-created type of passion thing going on. You can imagine that he spends the majority of his time in the basement, because before this, before the past like 3 chapters, we had only thought that the Doctor only had one body. We didn't think that he had a quirk. I mean, it was speculated he did have a quirk and it just wasn't registered, considering he works for All for One. But now we know that there are clones of him everywhere. We don't know how many clones, but there are clones of him. So for real, the real Doctor could have been in the basement all along and had his clones dealing with everything up above, showing face, making appearances to the hospital, to the orphanage, to the elderly home. He could have been doing all that with just clones while he was in the basement all along. So you can only imagine that he has grown really attached to all of these different Nomu, whether they're low-end Nomu or high-end Nomu. So when you see my boy Johnny and my boy Mocha go down, he's like, yo, those were my personal ones. Those were my buddies, the ones I talked to and, confided in on some, lonely ass shit. But nonetheless, you have these two that gave their lives. Well, Johnny didn't really sacrifice himself. He was just a casualty of war. But Mocha actually gave his and or her, because, gender equality, gave their neutrality life in order to protect their creator, the Doctor. Nonetheless, Mirko did not stop him from activating the high-end Nomu, and now all of the high-end Nomus that were there, we don't get a full number, are attacking Mirko. They have one command, and that command is go slaughter those meddlesome heroes. That was on page 13. You have some interesting development in My Hero Academia chapter 261 on page 16, where we flash back to Crust and he's encountering a Nomu. Whether it's a low-end Nomu or a high-end Nomu, we're not really sure, but let's just assume that it's a high-end Nomu. Damn. A high-end Nomu, excuse me, because it's speaking and it says, I'm not sure about your rank, but I know you are Crust. And then Crust responds, correct, how astute. You have to wonder if these Nomu are programmed with specific heroes in mind that they have to target, or they only remember as much as the human that they are made from. So assume that a high-end Nomu is made from a villain. Well, they're gonna have recollection of all heroes that they currently know of. Or they might be a hero that knows of the ranks amongst heroes, but doesn't know of the current status due to the fact that, how long have they been in those incubators? Nobody knows. But these are things that we can always try to figure out and assume later chapters, and I think that we're gonna have a greater indication with next week's chapter as to the true process, maybe not the process of high-end Nomu, but what they truly know as far as their programming from the Doctor. Last page of the chapter, you have a very savage shot of Mirko taunting the Doctor somewhat. She is very quick-mouthed, and the Doctor says, I'm sorry I couldn't give you enough time, but I leave this to you, referring to the Nomu. Mirko responds, says, you think you're getting away, you old fart? Whatever, things are only just heating up. Now, we only have in the picture 4 high-end Nomu. Alright? What their abilities are, we don't know, but we know for a fact that they're higher Nomu. What I am theorizing to happen is that this might work out one of two ways. Either one, they're going to have fully stabilized, just being activated, which would be crazy considering it took our boy Hoodie 10 hours to stabilize. So it would kind of be weird if they stabilize right out the gate. But what does stabilization really mean? Does it take 10 hours for them to stabilize and then receive orders from the master? Are they in an enraged state within those 10 hours where they're listening to nobody, so you can release them from their test tube, but you can't necessarily put them off the leash? Who knows? Are these high-end Nomu going to attack anything and everything? Is that why the Doctor's leaving? Because maybe they'll destroy anything in their path. Who knows? All we know is Mirko is in the fight of her life. She can't die, alright? She can't. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. I'm not like these toxic My Hero Academia fans, but if Mirko dies in the next chapter, Hirokoshi, you will be receiving a letter from me. Now, that's the chapter, but let's get a little bit of rambling off because we still haven't seen the heroes, the sidekicks, and, the students that are currently at the manor in the woods, and we haven't seen that pop off just yet. So, yeah, we are in for a very powerful arc. Let me know in the comment section below, what does this whole stabilization thing mean? Is it like a body composition thing where their body is constantly breaking down and reforming because they are genetically engineered? What does it mean to be stabilized and ready for combat? 10 hours is a very long time. They haven't been out the cage more than a minute. So what is going to come in the next chapter? Who will be there to help Mirko? Is it going to be Crust that gets there first, or is it going to be Endeavor or potentially somebody else down the road? But that is what I have for y'all today. If you made it to the end, thank you. Go plus ultra and smash that subscribe button. It lets me know you're rocking with the content that I put out on the channel. Like the video, rate the video, share the video, follow me on Twitter, and like always, keep it safe and rapid tight. I'm out.